What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pots Up podcast. Back with another post-match reaction episode. This time after the 1-0 defeat at the hands of Juve in the Derby d'Italia in Turin. Inter in a match that was not necessarily must win, but would have been a huge win. And yet again, what we've seen this season fails to show up in a big match. Obviously, because being the Derby d'Italia against Juve, our biggest rival, there was a lot on the line, but even more considering we could have gone top of the table after Napoli dropped points yesterday to Lazio after a 2-2 draw. It was really a tale of two halves. It was a second half performance. Not trying to take anything away from Juve. I think they came out in the second half and showed that they were chasing and wanted the victory maybe a little more, but it's another one of those performances in a big match that we've seen this season from Inter that it's just failed to be clinical enough and just overall good enough to really impact, I guess, this season. It's frustrating. Like I said, it's another line of big games that haven't gone our way, from the Supercoppa against Milan, the first Milan derby, the first Derby d'Italia 4-4, a couple other bigger games. It seems like really only the Arsenal match and maybe the Man City match, even though it was a draw. It was the first Champions League match, and it was away to a team who, regardless if they're having a tough season, you see a lot of big teams this season struggling, us included, despite being higher up in the table, um, due to lots of games that these teams have been playing. But it's a frustrating trend that we've seen this season from Inter in these big matches, and it's never fun to lose. We saw it recently with the Fiorentina match recently, but losing to Juventus is even tougher to swallow, and this one hurts. It was an opportunity uh, to really give us some comfortability, maybe, with that head-to-head match against Napoli. Now we're going to have to go to Naples and win that match to overjump Napoli, and I don't know, it's definitely one of the tougher ones this season to swallow. But yeah, I guess we can dive into it and kind of talk about what we saw. Starting lineups: Inzaghi named probably the strongest starting lineup he could name, with Thuram. Without Thuram, he's carrying that little bit of an injury, so he obviously wasn't going to get the full 90. We had Sommer in goal, Pavard, Acerbi, Bastoni in the back, Dumfries, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, Mkhitaryan, and Di Marco across that midfield five, with Taremi and Lautaro up top. Juve decided not to go with Vlahovic or Yildiz in the starting lineup. Colomani was the striker starting up top, Nico Gonzalez on the left. And it was, like I said in the kind of pre-match or pre-talk here at the beginning of the podcast, it was a tale of two halves. Inter were the better team in the first half. Maybe the first couple minutes wasn't too great. There was a couple bad misplaced passes. The team didn't look as sharp. Çalhanoğlu early slipped and fell after kind of like a ping back and forth a couple of times with him and Acerbi. It just looked a little sloppy, like they maybe weren't ready for the match or needed to grow into the match. But after a few minutes, they grew into the game, and it was really spurned, and probably our best player on the day, by Denzel Dumfries. In the 8th minute, he had a great play where he used a lot of strength to hold off the defender and then get to the corner line. I don't know if it was Renata Vega or Savona. I can't remember. It was in the 8th minute, but it was a great play by Dumfries, and we saw this time and time again throughout the first half and early in the second. Um, Barella, again, we had kind of shades of that goal that he scored. It was during Conte's time. Bastoni playing the ball over the top, Barella running on and finishing. We had kind of a situation like that in the 11th minute. I think they ended up calling it back offsides, but The signs from us, we were the team coming out looking for the ball. Both teams, Juve were pressing high when they lost the ball. I think whenever we kind of were doing our slow build-up, they dropped back a little bit, but they definitely weren't in that low block shell like Fiorentina or Milan had stifled us with recently. And we were playing really high up the pitch, pressuring high, and forcing a lot of mistakes by Juve early on in that first half. And it seemed, like a goal was coming for Inter. Um, in the 19th minute, Barella had the opportunity. It was a great run by him. He cut back, went to go shoot, slipped, and the ball went straight up, led straight to Taremi, who did a really good job on the volley or overhead kick, whatever you want to bicycle, whatever you want to call it. Really testing Di Gregorio, I guess, even not as far as having to dive, but reaction wise, that's one you got to react quick to. And then that kind of save led to Lautaro crossing in the box to Dumfries. I saw they say maybe Dumfries should have done better with the header. I think it was a good job. I think this was Savona, and it was the only thing Savona did good the entire match, just barely putting Dumfries off enough to affect his jump where he couldn't latch on to the end of the ball. But again, we were the dangerous team here. Um, First off in the match, first 15 minutes. Juve did have some chances. Nico Gonzalez on a counter with a first time shot. Sommer, it looked like he went to go catch it as he was falling. And, sometimes you see that as a keeper trying to do that as you're going down. When you hit, the ball bounces and it can go anywhere. Luckily for us, it went to the outside and ended up, I think, Conceição somehow got the ball back. McKinney tried to backheel it. It was, what it was? It was a terrible clearance by Nicola Barella. And it went straight to Conceição, did a quick move shot, and it was another good save by Sommer. And it, wouldn't say those were worrying signs because at that point, Inter had been the better team throughout the first part of the first half. But it seemed like, Juve, it was not going to just roll over. It was going to be a decent match. I think off of that corner, too, Colomilani had a header that went straight to Jan Sommer. So they'd got three really quick chances right off the bat. It seemed like at this point, too, and I think they did a really good job of it. They did what I've said in the past a lot, and what I really said whenever we had Marcelo Brozovic is, how to really stifle Inter. It's kind of gotten a little better under Inzaghi. We found a little different things, but is you got to shut down that regista role, and it seemed like they were doing a really good job and really trying to limit Çalhanoğlu, and he was eventually having to pop up a little higher up the pitch just to kind of find the ball because he wasn't able to get that kind of space and be able to create from deep like a lot of teams maybe afford him or he finds. I don't know if that's kind of a fitness thing for him. It didn't really appear, although he did have some tape on his thigh, so maybe fitness is still an issue for him. But I do think it looked like Juve was focusing on Çalhanoğlu and trying to take him out of the match for us. Um, I do think Taremi in the first half, his high press was working well. It was something I commented on Uncle Sharm's video on the live broadcast with Nima the other day. I think it was yesterday as a preview that I believed Inzaghi was going to start with Taremi just because of the high press over Arnautovic, who didn't even get minutes this match, so fitness must be an issue for him. But I think Taremi in the first half, as far as pressing wise, did a really good job and was impacting the match that way. Barella, though, in the first half in particular, but I think throughout the whole match, definitely looked off. Um, but yeah, the first half really was summed up by some terrible misses, or maybe a couple chances. One terrible miss in particular by Inter. Lautaro in the first chance was ball across again from Dumfries, who had done well, just pretty much destroying Savona on that right side the entire match. Found Lautaro in the middle of the box, probably 12 yards out. No one around him. First time shot and completely made a meal of it. It's one of those that we've seen Taremi make this year. And, if we're going to criticize Taremi, if we're going to criticize Arnautovic, if we're going to criticize all these other players, Correa, we got to criticize Lautaro here. That just simply is not good enough, especially a player of his quality missing something like that. And that is the difference in the match sometimes is those little chances. They're not going to come. I think Bonetti said it perfectly in the broadcast is, he's not going to get a better chance than that the rest of the match. And when you get a good chance, the difference in big matches is if you put him away or not. And that was one that Lautaro, I'm sure he'll think about later on tonight. He would love to have back. And it's one that, could have really changed the tide of the match. Missing a chance like that also gives Juve a sense of, all right, that's the one chance they're going to have. Now we need to go take advantage of the one chance we're going to have. Again, in the 40th minute, about 20, 25 yards out, it was another terrible miss by Lautaro. He just didn't seem off. It seemed like the Lautaro of 2024 today, really. Um, but Dumfries, again, in the 42nd minute, three chances in 35th minute, 40th minute, 42nd minute for Inter. Like I said, this really sums up the first half and maybe even the whole match. Dumfries, again, beats Savona, which was the theme of the first half. Uh, it looked, I think Gatti was deciding whether to go with him or Lautaro. Dumfries held it and held it off for as long as he could and decided to go for the shot, which eventually I think was the right decision. And unfortunately, off the bar. These chances in big matches, again, it's something that we've seen, this clinical finishing. I think we talked in October or November on the podcast about the lack of clinical finishing. There's so many games we could have won. I mean, today we could have been up 2-0 at half, and the game would have been completely different in the second half. And it's been that way in several matches this year. There's only been, I mean, you can't win every game 5-6-0, but with the chances we've had, we potentially should have more 5 or 6-0 games than the two that we have, Verona and Lazio, 4-0 too with Atalanta. But it's frustrating that these guys are being presented with these chances and not being able to put them away. And that's the difference between winning a Scudetto and not winning a Scudetto. It's small things like that. 2021, it's Radu, the ball going through his legs and us not getting a result away at Bologna. And Milan won the Scudetto. So hopefully, this won't come back to haunt us. Like I said, we're only 2 points behind. And we have that game head to head against Napoli. So we'll see. After that Dumfries hit on the post, Bonetti said that Denzel's been playing like Maicon recently. Not going to say that he's on the level of Douglas Maicon, one of the best right backs, in my opinion, not only Serie A, but world football. I've seen short sample because it was really only like 2 to 3 seasons. But those 2 to 3 seasons, it was almost Ronaldinho-esque, the impact that he had on Inter and everything. Not in the sense of they played the same position or style or anything, but his impact on matches. Maicon he was keeping out Dani Alves, who some people consider one of the best right backs of the last 30 years of that Brazil national team. Um, Dumfries is not on that level, but his form recently has been very impressive. He has the strength like Maicon. He can play like Maicon in a sense. He doesn't have the shot that Maicon has. I mean, Maicon would hit some belters from 40 yards out and absolutely destroy the net and the keeper. But it was an interesting comparison. I wanted to mention that, see what any of you guys thought. I know there's probably some people that aren't from the States that might not get the commentary that we got. So give me a comment, whatever, if you think that Dumfries has been on the same tier as Maicon in the last few games. But yeah, that was pretty much the first half. Inter was definitely the better team, had the better chances. Some thoughts that I had. The first thing is just frustrating. We should be up. It should be a 1-2-0 game at this point. So frustrating is really the word of that first half. Lautaro, I put, looks like the Lautaro of 2024, not the Lautaro of 2025 that we've seen so far. Like I said, he's going to be regretting those misses. But he wasn't the only one. Barella looked off, and I think there was a foul early on. Nico Gonzalez, just slightly, but he got the best of Barella, stamped on his foot. It was nothing malicious, no yellow, no red, nothing like that. But I'm wondering if that affected Barella because I think they stopped the match like 5 minutes after that, and he was wobbly still and everything. He ended up playing the whole 90, but it's interesting. He just definitely didn't look himself this match, and that was definitely a difference for Inter. Having Barella at the top of his level was something that definitely impacts us. And for whatever reason, this match he just didn't look on it, in my opinion. Uh, I said keep feeding Dumfries. The left side, Di Marco, we were building up a little bit, but it was more, crosses from deep, it felt like, between him and Bastoni, whereas Dumfries was driving and getting the best of Savona and beating his man one-on-one and really getting us in dangerous areas. And then I wrote Taremi looked good. Acerbi was looking good. We got to get Chala more included from deep to build from the back, but it did look bad. I didn't think we need to make changes at this point. Uh, Hindsight's 2020. I still don't know at that point what changes he could have made, Inzaghi. But the second half was a completely different tale. Juve were the better team. I don't think it was close. Inter still had chances, but Juve were definitely the hungrier and the more clinical. They started way better. There's 3 to 4 chances early, and it was scary. You could tell Juve had come out to win the match, and Inter, we didn't need a win necessarily because we have that head to head, and we're only 2 points behind regardless with the loss. But yeah, that seemed almost like the mentality, like, hey, we got to go to the Maradona. We'll wait for that game. This one, let's kind of get some rest. That definitely wasn't the mindset, but that's just the way it appeared. Um, One thing I do want to note, I haven't seen the replays or anything. It was just something I saw. Uh, don't know how it wasn't a little bit of a bigger talking point than anything. It'd be interesting to see. I'm doing this right after the match. So I don't know what CBS Sports, what their post-match talking points are. But in the 50th minute, Weston McKennie stamped on Bastoni, and you could see instantly Bastoni went down. The first replay, and the only replay I saw was, I mean, it was a stamp, and it was very reminiscent of, if you guys remember, Matias Vecino's challenge on Mario Mandzukic a couple years ago. I think this was like the first match. Maybe it must have been like 2018 Spalletti. It might have been, or maybe it was 2017. Spalletti was definitely the manager. Icardi had to have been there. Um, it wasn't on the field ruled. I think it was ruled a yellow card. Mandzukic, went crazy, big diva that he was, adamant. Uh, Maybe it was, I don't, because they went to VAR. So maybe it was 2019. Guys, let me know in the comments what the year was and everything. But it was a stomp, very light stomp in passing. They went to the VAR and ended up coming back giving Vecino a red card. This was like the 30th minute of the match. Completely changed the rest of the match after that. Um, this looked almost exactly similar. It was a stamp, a raking of the ankle. Again, looking everything through blue and black tinted glasses, so I'm obviously skewed. But for me, it's almost a very similar scenario, and it's the consistency of Serie A officials. Mariani, I think, did a terrible job today, especially in the second half. Not only with calls, I think there were bad calls that didn't go the team's way on both sides. It wasn't just for Inter. He was giving out cards and then not giving out cards seconds later for the same thing. This one, they went to VAR and looked at it. How is the referee not being called over to at least take a look at it from his perspective? He's the one on the field reading the flow in the game of the match. Um, it's something you would like to. I hate when they say, "Oh, they only bring officials over if they know 100% that they're going to change the call." Let the referee. What if he blinked and he missed it? At this level, these incidents happen at literally in a blink of an eye scenario and time. And the fact that you don't even bring him over to look at it, if he says no, okay, that's not a red card, that's fine. I would live with that. But the fact that he wasn't even called over to look at, they did stop the match for a little bit. They looked at it for a minute, so obviously there was something to look at. It wasn't even a yellow, so maybe they were trying to say it was an orange, I guess is what they were looking at in between yellow and red. But have the referee come over and look at it. And again, if it was a red card 6, 7 years ago on Vecino, it's got to be something. Would have red have been harsh? I don't know. Again, I haven't seen the replays and all the images, but it wasn't one of those where it was the foot on the foot, which is, if I'm not mistaken, Vecino just kind of like stopped on his foot. Um, Whereas this one, I mean, it was Bastoni's leg was right here, and it was breaking down the side of the leg at the ankle. I think that was a big moment in the match right there. You could see McKennie after the foul. You could see on his face he was nervous. I'm not going to say, that impacted the game, or it did impact the game, but I'm not going to say that's the reason Inter lost. I think Juve still were the better team in the second half. They had more grinta, but that's a big moment in the match that I'd love to go back and revisit. If you guys have seen the replays or anything, comment and let me know what you think. But a big big moment in the match, in my opinion. It seemed like Inter, though, after that match, it was like, or after that moment, you could see it just. Juve came out and kicked us in the face, even with that foul. That kind of spurred and riled up the rest of the Juve team. It seemed like, and we weren't pressing near as high. It felt like we were taking more of a backseat, and again, okay with a draw or a loss because hey, we got to go to the Maradona, another big match. So be it. Um, and that kind of response is concerning as an Inter fan. Another thing, Mariani, in the 55th minute, there was no yellow card on Timothy Weah sideline. I think it was DiMarco got past him and he pulled him back. No yellow card for that one. Literally a minute or two earlier, Conceição got a yellow card for pulling back Çalhanoğlu. Or no, it was Mkhitaryan. It's literally the exact same play. The inconsistency of Mariani in this match was concerning, especially in the second half. Um, what was another one? Oh, huge one. Uh, I think it was Turam got past the new signing Renato Viega for Juve, and played it in. Great ball to Dumfries. One time chance, did what Lautaro couldn't do. It was a very similar scenario in the first half. Put it on goal. It was honestly a great save by Di Gregorio. I think it ended up going off the post too after the save. But then the referee, this is 30 seconds out of the facts, pulls it back for the foul that he thought he saw in Turam, which wasn't a foul. Um, Very confusing and alarming. And just, again, the second half, Mariani did absolutely terrible. It's a shame that we're talking about officiating week in and week out, but it's also interesting. I posted a month or two ago on Reddit that the level of officiating in Serie A is just not good enough. Hasn't been good enough. And I got lambasted. People were like, Are you watching other leagues? Blah, blah, blah. It's not about the other leagues. It's this league and how good this league is. Metrics wise, it's the second best league in the world. You could maybe argue, in my opinion, as far as top to bottom competitiveness, there is the bottom tier teams that aren't great, but the top 12 teams in Serie A are really good and it's really competitive. And at that point, you need competitive officiating and really good officiating, top draw officiating. I don't care what the Premier League or La Liga is doing. This is a Serie A problem. And it was just a little concerning. Again, I think Juve deserved the win based off their performance in the second half. But the officiating again today, as it has been consistently for a couple months now, has just not been good enough in Serie A. But then the deadlock was broke after that, 73rd or 74th minute. Um, it was some on a clearance. I think it was a set piece maybe. And Çalhanoğlu fell down, which was the theme for everybody. Juve and Inter players were falling down left and right on this. But wasn't a clearance that it should have been by Çalhanoğlu. The ball landed to Colomolani, and brilliant work by him. You got to give him the accolades and praise for the work he did at the top of the box. Did a little Zidane Redonda kind of move, and it eventually, I think he lost control, but it found its way to Conceição and slotted it through in the corner. 1-0 Juve, and it was a deserved goal in my opinion for Juve. Colomolani was my pitch. Milani was the player of the match. That kind of play summed it up. Conceição probably got player of the match due to the goal, but 74th minute, Juve had scored, and it seemed, with the way being at the stadium, the Allianz, it's not an easy place to play. We've only won there once, I believe, if that. Um, Maybe I think we've only got draws then. I can't remember, but it kind of the writing was on the wall after that. We did have a chance in the 85th minute from Turam. It was a missed header from off of a cross from Zalewski, who I think he showed okay whenever he came in. We'll talk about the subs here in a second, but that was really the last chance. I think Juve even had a chance or two late on that would have killed the game off and made it 2-0. And Inter, again, we're not a big game team this season. It's not the first time. It's actually been quite a few times in big games that we have failed to show up, and it's concerning. I don't know really if it's an Inzaghi problem because we've seen this team under Inzaghi win huge matches, or if it's a player mentality problem. They know what is at stake. They know, that we do still have to travel to the Maradona, and that's going to be the game that really tells the tale of the season this season. But it's your rival, it's Juve, it's away, we struggle there. Like, give us a better performance than what we saw today. It just simply wasn't good enough, especially in the second half. The effort wasn't there. It was just bad all around, and it was really disappointing. You might have heard my wife's doing the dishes out there, or the dishes fell or something. Um, but yeah, it's this is a tough one to swallow. It sucks. The subs that Inzaghi made. Zalewski came on. He was bright when he first came on, and then kind of faded off of that. Thuram was very quiet early, and pretty much the whole time he was on. I don't think he really impacted the match much at all. I guess that injury is still affecting him. Um, he did have that header chance in the 85th minute that he should have done better with and put on target. It was a little high, but I think he could do better. We've seen him score goals having to jump, and other than that, I don't think he was that great when he came on. Zielinski didn't really have much of an impact. It didn't feel like he found his way into the match. Carlos Augusto had a misplaced pass or two. He did all right, but still didn't really impact the match. There was no Fratesi in this match, which I think tells a big tale. Aslani didn't come on. Correa, I thought, actually came on and did all right. He had some good moves and ideas that was different, something that was impacted the game slightly. I think it still wasn't good enough from Inter. I guess it was exciting and good to see Inzaghi change formation, go to a 3-4-3. This is about the third time we've seen him this season. The criticism that I give him the most time and time again is his ability to change. It's the 3-5-2 system, and it's that, and it's nothing else. He's done it a time or two against Arsenal. He went 4-4-2 to close the game out. We've seen him in a game against Fiorentina, I believe, the one we lost 3-0, go with four strikers to try and chase a goal. And then this one, he went to a 3-4-3, bringing Correa on and taking off Çalhanoğlu. And, maybe it was a little late to that, but it's nice that he's trying something different, not living and dying by the 3-5-2. So who knows? Maybe that could help us out later in the season, but it's just a tough pill to swallow today. I don't think the subs are good enough. I don't think the second half was near good enough. Lautaro, I don't think you can chalk it up to fatigue. I don't think he was fatigued. He's streaky, and maybe we're about to go through another cold streak. The bad thing is it doesn't look like Thuram is on form either. So I don't think, as much as I love Arnautovic, Lord Arnautovic, I don't think this was a match for him to come in on. I don't really think he would have impacted it as much. Maybe him and Gatti could have gotten battled into it, but I just don't think that the match really screamed out for Marko Arnautovic. I think Zielinski maybe should have came on sooner, and I don't know. It's tough. I don't think Inzaghi really made too many mistakes other than just not being able to get the guys motivated out of the second half. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, really what the difference was in the changing points of this match. Um, yeah, this is a tough one, especially because it's Juve, and especially because of the opportunity that was there. Again, it brings. We're going to have to chase the match in Naples. I would much rather go to Naples and have a team that's struggling to put teams away, chase the match. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I think we got Genoa next, Lazio in the Coppa Italia. Coppa Italia at this point can go fuck itself. I don't want it. I would much rather focus on Champions League and the Scudetto. For me, I'd say play Arnautovic, play Taremi, play Fratesi, play Aslani, play all these backup players. And if we get a victory, oh well. If we don't, we don't. That's just one less competition we have to worry about. And hopefully we see a response too against Genoa. That's a must win. Every game in the league is a must win game. We can't rely on Napoli to be dropping points week in and week out like they had. So again, it's frustrating, especially against Juve, but not all is lost. There's still a long season left to go. This one definitely just hurt a little bit more than maybe even that Fiorentina match, the 3-0 loss. Guys, I appreciate all the support. If you want a sticker like this one, let me know in the comments. We will send some out. We still have probably about 10 or 15 left. Please like, subscribe, comment. Um, yeah, and I appreciate all the support. Hopefully, we bounce back and in the season a Scudetto and Champions League winning Inter this year, and all these matches that we've been frustrated and complaining about. It's in the back of the mind, and all we remember is the trophy that we won at the end of the season. Again, with how shitty sometimes it feels like we played this year, we're still second place in the league and only 2 points off the top. So there's hope. It's time to find form and get into form and finish the season strong. So yeah, appreciate all of it, guys. We'll be back maybe with another episode of the Calcio and Herald of Legends. Took a week off last week of it, but yeah, maybe we'll come back with another one this week and put that out later this week. So thanks, guys. As always, Forza Inter.